Human decency is not derived from religion. It precedes it. Christopher Hitchens. Welcome to Atheism, the Link to Truth. I'm Jared Adams, and today I'm going to be discussing the Bill Nye Ken Ham, is creationism compatible with today's science? After watching 2 hours plus of the video, I've come to the conclusion that we probably should only watch a half-hour segment of it where Ken Ham's argument falls apart. This is when they're discussing the second law of thermodynamics. Before we do that, let's go over what science needs to run properly. It needs to fire on all these three cylinders in order to move or work at all. Now, first we have to look at the laws of logic, which is the correct way of thinking. For example, law of non-contradiction. Can't have an A and not an A at the same time, if you will. Secondly, the law of nature. For example, the law of life, law of chemistry, law of planetary motion, and law of mathematics, etc. All those things need to be static. And finally, we also need the uniformity of nature. The laws of nature do not change without this. Without this, science would be impossible. We need that uniformity. So where everything fell apart for Ken Ham is when the discussion of thermodynamics came into play. Now, when this came into play, he has his own worldview on the second law of thermodynamics. He believes that the second law of thermodynamics never existed before the fall. Now, on this timeline, he states that after the fall, the laws of nature changed, where everything did move. Cosmic and planetary expansion started happening, where everything starts to move away from each other. Now, he states that God doesn't hold everything together as he did, which he means is before the fall. Everything was held together quite firmly and stayed the same. After the fall, that's when things started to move apart. All right, that's when he doesn't hold it together as he once did. This is where the uniformity of nature came into play. All right, this is with the uniformity of nature is how science can be built. This is where our platform stems from. Right, so that's his worldview. That's how the second law of thermodynamics came into play. He also states that the second law of thermodynamics will stop again after the second coming. So everything will revert back to static. But in order for things to be law, like the law of nature, the law of logic, and things like that we need in science with the uniformity of nature, laws don't change. So if we have the uniformity of nature happening and not happening at any point in time, that's when our entire system breaks down. Why am I saying this? Why is this relevant to the debate? Well, the debate is about, is creationism compatible with today's science? And if Ken Ham states that a law that is supposed to be static changes willy-nilly whenever it wants because of the fall or after the second coming, then we have no platform for science. Without the uniformity of nature, we have no platform to work science off of. So right there, in that tiny little tidbit, where he inadvertently states that the uniformity of nature is not part of this worldview, he defeated himself. Bill Nye didn't even have to be there. All we had to do was ask what his take on the second law of thermodynamics is, which is a non-static universe where things do decay, things do move apart, right? It's without decay, without movement of the universe, we don't have uniformity of nature. We have a static way of life. So, in saying this, after all the bullshit that he went through, this is where he defeats himself. Now, I'm not quite sure if he understands the implications on stating that the second law of thermodynamics kicks in and kicks off whenever it wants, and what it means for this debate that he was having. But he nullified any type of argument that he had for the context of the debate. So, I want to know what your guys' take on it is. Obviously, if you have half a brain about yourself, then you would agree with me, right? In order for something to be law, it holds true forever. It doesn't change. Whereas Ken Ham's worldview is that uniformity of nature isn't always a constant. It changes, whenever God decides it wants to change it. And, which wouldn't be bad, like, after the second coming, if that happens. We have no planetary expansion, right? We have no decay. Nothing dies. It's going to be a pretty crowded place. And the universe not moving away from itself mean that we're not going to have a universal freeze, right? Because the farther things move away from each other, the colder shit's going to get, right? Which wouldn't be bad. That means we get to exist forever. The entire universe gets to exist for as long as it wants, and which would be great. But that's not how science works, right? We, through standard candles, looking at picking up new stars, new solar systems, new exoplanets, things like that, we can calculate from this model how fast things or how slow things are moving away from each other. Now that we know that, there's no refuting it, right? The math is there. It's good, right? And the laws of nature and the laws of logic with the uniformity of nature state that this will not change, that this is our static model of our universe and our way of life, and our laws of nature don't change. Saying that they do refutes the whole debate topic. He demolished himself in one little sentence. So anyway, you guys tell me what your view is on this, or in the debate, if there was another part in the debate where he just destroyed his argument again. I'll have to go through it again, but this jumped out at me and I had to make a video. But let me know. And if there is, even if you don't want to do any research on it, send me a message or a post, and I'll do the research myself, and I'll make another "Oops, Ken Ham shouldn't have did that" video again. Anyway, guys, this is Atheism: The Link to Truth. I'm Jared Adams, and hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you later.